Hey, wild weather here for liveweatherblogs.com. It's Sunday morning, coming up on 11 o'clock, and boy, the cold air is certainly come into the Philadelphia region and most of the eastern part of the United States. It was very impressive just about an hour ago. It was 28 degrees down here in Atlanta, Georgia, but already you can see the warming is taking place. The sun angle is a little higher this time of the year, so it'll warm up quicker in these locations than it will up in this area. 19 right now in Pittsburgh, 16 out here in Chicago, 12 in Des Moines, 9 degrees right here in central Wisconsin. Warming's taking place. The actual warming coming in from the Pacific is actually coming up and over the top now. Some Chinook winds coming up into the Billings, Montana area, 39 degrees out there right now. Believe it or not, some of the warming coming up and over the top from the Pacific and then spilling down into the Rockies now. In time, the cold air will ease. We have a positive NEO, so the cold air is screaming across the Great Lakes right now from Hudson Bay. Really, it's below zero up that way. It's very windy up there. Wind chills 30 to 40 degrees below zero up there in Hudson Bay. But this air is coming down, and then it will quickly, as it came in, it will quickly leave. And that will open the door for low pressure to develop down here, and then come right on up. And what you're going to be looking at Tuesday and the Wednesday, as I thought, is going to be rain and maybe as the storm pulls away and there's enough available moisture behind it, as the new cold air mass comes down, maybe you get some snow flurries or maybe a couple of snow showers in the back end, especially, say, west of Lancaster, Harrisburg, out toward Pittsburgh. Take a look at that in a moment. Let's take a look at the water vapor map. All this brought to you by hamweather.com, and this is the 24-hour loop of the water vapor map. Love looking at the water vapor map because it really shows you all the players in the field. Right here is your cold air screaming down across the Great Lakes. Here it comes as of this morning, and it's rounding the loop now, and it is going to come in, and it is going to leave. There is no blocking. There is very little blocking up here. You can see this storm is now retrograding to the west, so maybe in time we can change that NEO to negative, but it's not happening right now. The NEO being positive, neutral, we're going to round it up, and then this storm here, this looks like a monster, but it's an upper level low. This storm will come weaken as it moves east. New low pressure will develop right in here, as you can already see some things starting to percolate here. Low pressure develops here and will come right on up the coast, and with it there'll be plenty of warming in the mid-levels of the atmosphere. Warming coming from the southern states as a southern branch system. Northern branch is up in here. It's good to see that the southern branch is active for perhaps a larger snowstorm down the road, but for today's purposes and next week, midweek, Tuesday night into Wednesday, this will be mainly a rain producer, maybe some snows in the western part of Pennsylvania, New York, and New England, where they could get some significant snow. But along the coastal sections, you're looking at a rainstorm, and as a matter of fact, some of the rain would be steady enough to maybe cause some poor drainage flooding, but we'll see how that works out. Some of the models are in disagreement whether we're going to get 1 to 2 inches or whether we're just going to see a glancing blow and maybe pick up an inch. No doubt about it, the ground's very dry. It's been quite dry. The Springton Reservoir down here in Media, Pennsylvania is really down pretty far. We haven't had a significant rainfall in about 2 months, so any rainfall that does fall will be welcomed. And it is dry. There is a fire danger today, and the rain will be welcome, and there should be no flooding concerns. We'll see how that goes. But you can see one impulse right here getting ready to move into the United States. Warming is starting to take place here, so we're getting some of the Pacific air coming in, the polar Pacific air. As this storm leaves, behind this and this, when these two get together off the coast here, will be polar Pacific air. The next shot coming on Thanksgiving Day is not going to be anything quite as cold as it is right now. Looking for temperatures probably in the upper 30s to about 40 degrees on Thanksgiving Day. Maybe a couple of fast-passing snow flurries and snow showers. We'll see how that works out. Let's take a little trip back. Told my friends at the blogger lunch yesterday to take a look at this. This is the superstorm of 1993. 20 years ago this March, we're going to be looking at this monster where all three jet streams combined, the subtropical, the polar jet, and the Arctic jet, all came down here in the Gulf of Mexico to form a monster storm that developed right down here, passed over Tallahassee, and right up the east coast. And record snowfalls took place. there was a storm surge on the west coast of Florida, severe weather along the Florida coast, and just an incredible storm from March standards. And this was a monster. Just ratcheted up the coast. 95-mile-per-hour wind gust up here in North Carolina, and up to 2 feet of snow in the mountains of North Carolina. All the way down in here, a foot of snow to Birmingham, Alabama. This was a storm to remember, and maybe we can see one of these this year. We'll see how it goes, but with cold air that's been plunging southward, kind of reminds me of a little of that. Um, what's going on now? You know, we are due for one of these large storm systems, and obviously, if this storm system, if a storm like this ever came to fruition, uh, my winter weather outlook of 15 to 23 inches would be in jeopardy. But this is fantasy for now, but could it become fact down the road? Well, we'll have to wait and see. Uh, Very difficult to predict a storm of this magnitude ever coming up, but we'll see. Um, we shall see. But I do believe that with the cold air, these air masses that are so cold up there in the Arctic, with the EPO being so favorable for cold shots, I'm wondering if maybe we're setting ourselves up for a storm like this, maybe in January, February, or March. There's a couple more images, if you would. This was the satellite image of that storm, just a monster of a storm. As a matter of fact, as the storm came up, the skies in Philadelphia, after 16 to 17 inches of snow, we had quite a conglomerate of weather as the system passed by with a 28 to 64 inch barometric pressure rating. And Philadelphia, we picked up to 16 inches, and when I lived in Drexel Hill at this point, we picked up about 3 inches of sleet, and then it actually did change to rain. The sun came out, and believe it or not, by 6:30 that night, right before the sun went down, the sun was out and there was a rainbow. So we had quite an interesting storm. Uh, this area back in here just got buried, and we can see that on the snowfall. This is from the Weather Channel back in 1993. Basically, we were 12 plus inches of snow from northeastern Alabama, just north and west of Atlanta, Georgia, right up the chute. Just north and west of Philadelphia, picked up over a foot of snow, and that would include the Delaware County, Philadelphia area, points north and west. And unfortunately for those along the coast, some warming did get up there, and some of the rain was beaten down, but some of the snow rather was beaten down. But this was a storm to remember, and I tell you what, if we got a monster like that, it would not surprise me this year. So we will have to wait and see what happens. But the reality is right now is that here's your storm coming along. There it is there. Come to the Gulf of Mexico, come up. The NAO is positive, so you can see everything's just allowed to come flying up the coast. And with the flying up the coast piece, you erode your cold air that you have at the surface. You bring the warm air up from the southern states, which isn't a bad thing for now. Maybe later on we can get this NAO negative. And if we can, this storm would have been a major snowfall producer. If the NAO were a negative half to negative 1.5, we'd probably be looking at a couple of feet of snow coming up Tuesday and Wednesday, but that's not reality. Here is your NAO. This is reality. Right now we're looking at neutral to positive conditions, and don't look for that to change much going into December. Right now I see one ensemble here, -1, but that's just one ensemble, and most of them are neutral to positive. With a flow like that, the best you're going to do is quick cold shots, maybe a few flurries here and there, with limited chances of snowstorm. The AO, again, it came crashing negative. This is where we are right here, and that's indicative of the cold air that came flying out of Canada. Now we're going to rise toward positive, but by December we see another cold shot. This would not surprise me that we see a couple cold shots with snow flurries and snow showers, but I'm not yet sold on a snowstorm. The PNA is flat, and that really kind of negative flatness will allow a lot of Pacific polar air. And what does that mean for December in Philadelphia region? Pacific polar air, you're probably looking at temperatures 40 to 47 or so, maybe a day here or there, 52 before maybe the AO kicks in. Here's the AO, and it gives us a day like we see today. So if you like up and down roller coaster kind of temperatures, 40s, middle, upper 40s, and then maybe a couple of days in the 30s and 20s, this is your weather pattern. Real quick, progressive flow, and the only significant snow I see in the horizon is maybe a snow shower or flurry with any one of these cold frontal passages, and maybe some lake effect things coming off the lakes. Kind of reminds me of winters from the 1980s. 1988 and 89 come to mind, but we'll see how it goes. Uh, so follow us on wildliveweatherblogs.com, and hopefully we can get a snowstorm that looks like this and a satellite that looks like that later on in the year. So far, what I'm seeing, we have a record tonight of 21, set back in 1965. This winter, or this pattern we're in early on, kind of reminds me of that winter. And in that winter, Philadelphia at the airport picked up 27.4 inches of snow. But there was no snow, 0 inches in December and 0 inches in March. I'm not sure about the 0 inches in March, but the December, we'll see what happens. But I think December we're looking at cold shots, flurries, snow showers, with not much measurable snow. This is wild weather for live with everybody.com. Everybody have a great Sunday.